CRM Associates is a world leader in Yellow Pages research. As president and CEO, Dr. Dennis Fromholzer is committed to helping Yellow Pages advertisers better understand their customers, the value delivered to those customers, and their value relative to their competition. In an effort to dispel the myths surrounding Yellow Pages, this series of short videos will supply you with important answers to frequently asked questions about Yellow Pages advertising. As an advertiser, you'll soon understand the truth about current consumer trends on usage and ways you can increase the effectiveness of your Yellow Pages advertising.
I've been asked by some, who doesn't use the Yellow Pages? It's an interesting question. I dug into the data. I looked at several different examples to try to find, could I identify, are there groups that simply don't use it? One place I looked was by size of city. And it turns out that the largest cities are the areas that are least likely to use Yellow Pages, but you have to look at it as two sides of the coin. New York City is a city that is least likely to use Yellow Pages. 40% of the adults don't use the Yellow Pages. But the flip side of that is 60% do. So one could say, oh, wow, 40% is a big number, but still the number of users is 50% higher than the non-users. Overall, in large metropolitan areas, about a third of the consumers say they don't use the Yellow Pages in an average year. But again, the flip side of that is 2 out of 3 adults do use it. That's a significant percentage. I looked at the Hispanic population because there are a lot of Hispanics that are freshly immigrated into the country. They come from countries where Yellow Pages weren't that prevalent. And indeed, what you find is about a third of Hispanics don't use the Yellow Pages. But again, 2 out of 3 do. And the 2 out of 3 that do use it 25% more than average. What I found among Hispanics is the longer they've been in the country, the more education that they get, and the more likely they are to learn and speak English, the more likely they are to use the Yellow Pages. I looked at singles, and I was a little surprised because singles' usage of Yellow Pages pretty much reflected that of the entire population, with one exception. Those singles that did use the Yellow Pages, and about 75% of them do, they use it 20% more than average. And again, singles experience life events too. They get jobs, they get promotions, they move, they buy a house, they make a first-time financial investment. All of these things drive higher usage of Yellow Pages by that group. Heavy users of the internet. I looked at those who use the internet the most, the 10 or 20% who are online all the time, spend the most hours per week. And about a third of them say they haven't used print in the past year, Yellow Pages. But 2 out of 3 do. And guess what? The 2 out of 3 that do use the print Yellow Pages 26% more than average. This goes back to a comment I made in a previous segment. These are savvy information gatherers. And these are people that use the internet intensively, and they use the Yellow Pages intensively as well. They're some of the heaviest users of the Yellow Pages. The group that I thought would be most likely to not use Yellow Pages are single men living in a large city in a rental apartment. And indeed, 60% of them don't use the Yellow Pages. But guess what? 40% do. And there's a startling statistic there. The 40% that do use the print Yellow Pages use them 70% more than the average consumer. 70% more. That's phenomenal. So to the question, who doesn't use Yellow Pages? I couldn't find any single group that across the board didn't use Yellow Pages. In every group, there were 2 segments. One population that didn't, and another that did, and generally used it more intensively than the average adult. That's an important message for businesses. You can't just ignore certain groups. You have to get your message out there. Yellow Pages being distributed to as much of the population as possible adds great value to every business.